No, we're not in lesson 6. Yeah, yeah, we're in lesson 7. We're in lesson 7. All right, so we started lesson 7, and so we were discussing Romans 12, 1 and 2, right? We read that, right? Therefore, I urge you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living and holy sacrifice acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service of worship. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove that what the will of God is, and that which is good and acceptable and perfect. All right. So I think we were talking about, let's see, we spoke about a living sacrifice, what that meant, right? I think we talked about that. Um, and talked about in view of God's mercy, by the mercies of God meant like in view of God's mercy. We talked about how you don't want to do things because you feel like it's a sense of duty that you do them. You just have that compassion in your heart to do the things, to do the sacrificing, because we're talking about sacrificing, right? Because I think we talked about some time ago that there's no success without sacrifice in some form. And so we want to ensure that that the sacrifice that we're doing is a response to God's grace. It is not because we think it is our duty to do it, okay? Right? Because we want to get away from that old law way of thinking where it's a rule, so let's do it because that's the rule we're supposed to do. You're supposed to be written on your hearts now. And so you should have that compassion to sacrifice. Right? Is that kind of what we talked about? No? Yeah, kind of. So we touched on it a little bit. All right. But that's what I meant to talk about if I did. All right. So, and present your bodies as a living sacrifice. We talked about that is um the way you live your life, right? You're worshiping daily, you're sacrificing daily because um um you're dying. Your old self has died. And so you have to kind of do that every day because it's always going to be a battle. The evil one is always trying to entice you and tempt you to 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 go back to your old self. And so it's a daily sacrifice, it's a daily of giving of yourself, uh, not giving in to what you want to do. It's giving in to what God wants you to do daily. And so so you're a living sacrifice. And of course, uh, acceptable to God. Say living and holy sacrifice, acceptable to God. And of course, holy and acceptable to God. Holy means you're set apart from sin, right? If you're holy, right? All right. All right. And you're you're kind of primed for God to use because you are holy. All right. All right. So now let's go to verse 2, where it talks about conforming and transforming, right? All right, so do not conform to this world. What does that mean? Do not conform to this world. What is it asking us to do? Is it asking us not to do something? What does it mean?
Don't be part of the world. Don't do what the world is doing.
And what is the world doing?
They ain't doing what's right.
And what's right?
They ain't doing God's will.
Okay, 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 okay. Now, does it just mean that everybody that's in this world that we live in is doing wrong? Is that what that means? Hmm? To a certain extent. To a certain extent, everybody that's in this world, you in this world. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So what does it mean then? So does it mean don't do what everybody else is doing, or what does it mean? Surely there's somebody righteous in the world, right? Huh? So what does it mean? Don't conform to the world. No, no. It said none but the righteous shall see God. I got a hand over here. Got a hand over here. The fruit of your loins.
There is a saying that like when it's wrong, do it the Romans. I guess like what they're saying is don't do what everybody else does, or don't conform to what society says is right or wrong.
Okay, so if you don't do that, what are you supposed to be doing?
Bible says,
Right. Okay.
guides and commands you.
Okay. Okay. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. Yes. Yes.
Read First John.
Yeah, I was about
Chapter
to
2.
read that.
All right. All right. Got in the back. Got him in the back already. I thought I told you last week get your own microphone back there.
Read verse 15 and 6.
No, you want to see 15 too? Okay.
15, 6.
All right. And it reads, do not love the world, nor the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I don't think it's necessarily people. I think it's.
Microphone.
So I don't necessarily think it's people, you know. So it's, you got to think about it, we in Romans, so it's not talking about outside, it's actually talking about us who are followers of Christ. So talk about those things that cause us to pull our attention and focus off God, like Joe like to brag about all the stuff that he do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When he could be bragging about the one that live in him.
Right.
Right, Joe?
You're right. Right. I think you're right. I think I think it's referring to, like I said, not the people's per se, but it's the things that many people value sometimes. Some of the customs that are out there, some of the uh, I guess some of the behaviors that are out there, some of the things that are trendy, some of the things that, it could be, you shouldn't be, because just because it's popular to do, you shouldn't do that. We could say, worship in the church is that way. Because it became popular, you see people on TV, with instrumental music, okay, that's the trendy thing to do. It must be okay to do it. Is it really? What does the word say? I remember having a conversation with someone. It's been some years ago now, I guess, but they were saying, well, what's wrong with music? I said, well, you know, what has changed? If you go back, probably go back, especially in the South, you probably go back 30 years, maybe when we were younger, 40 years. Some of us had to go back longer than that to be young. You didn't see instruments. You may have had a piano, maybe, but you had a lot of churches didn't have pianos, you know. But now you got those same churches now, those same congregations got guitars and drums, and and it's a lot of instruments. So he's like, well, why didn't they have it 30 years ago? They could afford it because the juke joints had them. The juke joints had guitars and stuff, so instruments were out there. It's not like they didn't invent instruments back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, but people didn't have it because things a lot of the things now that people do, it's like, well, did the word change? The word didn't change. So what changed? That now it's okay. People didn't think it was okay back then, but they think it's okay now. So or at least I think you think it's okay. Yeah, yeah. Got a couple of hands here. I don't know who's first.
But they say the juke joint had drums, pianos, guitars and stuff.
Yeah.
See, them guys paid on the weekend, Friday, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, it wasn't happening because they were still hungover. So seriously, I know because I was a part of that group.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I did that, but I tried to make it church, but I didn't I did not participate in
You sat on the back pew when you went in there, didn't you?
Oh, yes.
Snuck in the back.
I didn't, I wasn't a part of the choir,
Right.
so.
Yeah. Well, my reason for bringing that up is um, the person I was talking to said, well, churches just couldn't afford to have those instruments. I said, well, people could afford those instruments because they had them in the juke joint. So if they could buy them in the juke joints, they could buy them for church if they wanted them, but they didn't want them for church because, in my view, that they must not have thought it was proper to have it in church. And if it wasn't proper then, why is it okay and proper now? What changed? The word ain't thing. But yes, sir.
Just like Protestants, Methodists, you notice how there was somebody who came along and said, we're going to do it this way. So it's rebellion and disobedience. And a lot of churches have accepted the traditions of what the world has accepted.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
acceptable.
Yeah.
And so even though they know what the scriptures say, you look at excuse me, you look at TD Jakes, you look at Creflo Dollar, what's his name, Osteen, and all them other cats, they know what the Bible says concerning instruments and worship, and all the other many commands that God has laid down for us.
And I just use instruments as an example. Now, that's not. I'm not saying that's the only thing, but
No,
I just use that as one of the examples. But go
neither
ahead.
am I.
Okay. Yes.
So the one command that we have gotten away from, or we probably never, most churches have never accepted, is search the scriptures for yourself to make sure that somebody's not lying to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of those they speak in tongues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we already know that that's not a thing anymore. And a tongue is nothing more than a language. And if you can't understand what he's saying, then that's not a tongue. That's not a language.
About go bit to interpret it.
So when Peter and all them guys received the Holy Spirit, they spoke in the languages of the people, not Shabaripas, whatever they say.
Mhm. Well,
So we haven't,
they were communicating with someone. How are you going to communicate if someone can't speak the same thing that you're speaking, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it comes down to people don't search the scriptures anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't. They listen to the preacher, and they take the preacher's word as law.
Yeah. 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 All right. Helen, you had your hand up? I saw you wave it. All right. All right. Okay. So, anyway, but going back to, so don't conform to the patterns that some in the world do. Some of the things that have been deemed to be okay. You know, there used to be a time where people, I bring up, business, people swindling people out of money or people being unethical in their business, life, whatever. There used to be a time that people frowned on that kind of thing. But now people say, oh, he's a smart businessman, when they swindle people out of money or whatever, just, don't hate the player, hate the game or whatever, so it's like people are more accepting of things than they used to be years ago, and they've, it's like they've become I don't know, almost immune to some of the things that that people do. How they backstab each other and all kind of stuff. Yes.
Well, you just think about, just the nature of man in itself. People tend to have a tendency if somebody does something, let's just say your mama tell you you're supposed to be home at 10 o'clock, and you mess around and you come in the house at 10:01, and she don't say nothing. Well, human nature usually, if you succeed with something, especially if it's something that's, kind of frowned upon, usually the nature is to take it a little bit further.
Hmm. Yeah.
And, by what Mike was saying is you can see that kind of everywhere. And so what's happened is where something should have been checked or should have been, hey, what's going on? It's just kind of a gradual slide further and further to the point where by the time somebody looks up, they don't even know where they at. Like, what we got over here?
Yeah. 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 Exactly. 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 All right. So do not conform to the ways of the world, or do not conform to this world. Doesn't necessarily mean the people, so to speak, but it's many of the ways, many of the patterns, many of the, you know, some of what they value. People value their dollar. They want that big shiny car. They want they want to be they want people to look at them, and they want to be seen, and make an entrance and all this kind of stuff. It's or you talk about the traffic in Atlanta, you know, but y'all ever meet people from Atlanta, see them and be like, boy, they just so ATL, ain't they? They so ATL, you know, and we know what that means, right? Well, at least when I say it, I know what I mean. It's like it's just so Atlanta's just the greatest place in the world, and they just up on everything, and they know everything that's going on, and you live that slow life down there, and down there in the dirty, you down in the dirty South, you living a slow life, but Atlanta, oh yeah, we got it going on, and it's like they just, not everybody up there, and probably not even most people up there, but you'll meet people that are that way, and I meet more younger people, especially, more so than older people, but the younger people because I guess the social media, everything's Atlanta, and so the young people, and they're so easily swayed by trying to make so much money, trying to make it look like, that's why when they sit down, they can't sit down and eat a doggone Big Mac without taking a picture of it. You know, because they got to show off. Oh, look, I got sesame seeds on my bun. I mean, whatever, two all beef patties, special sauce. So, but it's like it's a show. I don't know. Everything's a show. It's a show offish kind of society that we live in. And like I said, especially with the younger people. And I think you can easily get lost in that kind of thing. Not that being successful or monetarily or holding a good job or having nice things is bad. That's not what I'm saying. But when that becomes all that you care about, when you love that more than you love, God, then it's a problem. It's a problem. And so those are the kind of values we don't, you know. Yeah, I remember I got a friend, and we were younger at the time, but I guess we probably married a few years, and we were visiting with them up in Atlanta, and I had a Honda Prelude, and I had hit something, I'd hit a dog or something, and I had like some scratches on the front fender there. He's like, man, what happened? I said, yeah, I hit a dog. He's like, you gonna get that fixed? I said, it's a couple of scratches. Ain't worry. I said, yeah, man, but that make your car be worth, $3,000 less. I'm like, but it ride the same. You know, it is an older car. I mean, I don't drive brand new cars very often right now. My wife will. She drive brand new stuff. Uh, but I don't, have to have a brand new car. And, little scratches here and there, okay, it's supposed to get scratches on every now and then. But he's like, oh, you can't have scratches on your car, he started looking terrible, like, man, just a couple of little scratches. I mean, if you hadn't brought it up, I wouldn't even notice them, that kind of thing. But it's just a mentality that some people have, and not saying he's a bad person, just in case he's listening or somebody go tell him. But it's just that certain uh, certain groups of people tend to kind of focus on the wrong thing sometimes. You know, and it can overtake some things. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful of that. So don't conform to that. Okay. So after you don't conform, what's next? But be transformed. Now, that's a different form then. Huh? Got a hand there before we go there. Go ahead.
Before we go, um, back to the love stuff, or the world,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the world, and I know we all heard this, uh, the physical lust of the physical lust of the eyes, and pride of life. That's it. So, like the physical, you know, I feel sometimes we don't even think about some of the smaller things when it comes out to the physical lust. You know, we always think about, you know, something way off, but what if I like to drink, you like to eat, but you know, you eat excessively.
Mm-hmm.
I drink excessively. That's lust,
Yeah, it is. It
you
is.
know. And then you got like he said, pride of life, you know, when you puff yourself up. So I don't like when we go by ourselves up, you know. And then the eyes, I think you covered that as far as with cars and that stuff, the material stuff,
Yeah.
you know. So I think we go sometimes beyond where we ought to go when we hear the things of the world. But I feel like it does stuff that I don't want to say battle with, but that's right in front of us every day.
Yeah.
And
It is. It is.
we participate in, because
We
I
do.
know I eat a little more than I do supposed to. So
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Like I said, it's more than just material things. It's other things as well. that We do. All right, but be transformed, right? By the renewing of your mind. So what does that mean? What does it mean to transform? What does that mean? To transform.
Well, it's talking about the way that once Christ has come into our life, He's going to transform us. And our mind being renewed is that process of us learning of Him and learning the way that He's loving us and the way He's called us to love Him. That's that exchange of taking things out and replacing things. And that's what He wants us to do with our mind, is have to be transformed by experiencing Him.
Okay, okay. So you define transforming by using transform. So
Being changed by
change. There we
change.
go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Give me
Word
definition.
for
Changing it. Yeah. So so.
So Mike, did those guys you were talking about earlier, did they transform?
Hmm.
Something to think about it.
Yes, they did.
Yes,
I
agree.
They just transformed the wrong way.
However, they transformed in a way that is not acceptable to God. So uh, their God transformed them,
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
right? So um, I think about life itself, and life itself is a change on a daily basis. It's a change, but where they the the people who accepts the traditions and all that stuff, where they mess up is their God is different from our God. Well, our God should be different from their God. So there's a scripture that says you can't serve God and mammon at the same time. So yeah, they changed all right.
Yeah. Yeah. They changed. They certainly did. Or they were a certain way and they didn't want to change, and so they wanted to stay that way, and that's why they went out and did what they did. I believe the battery was gone dead here now. So maybe they didn't want to change. Maybe they saw that there was a need to change and they didn't want to. I got this one. Yes. So they saw there's a need to change and they didn't want to, so they did, perhaps. All right. So, but we are to transform by by the renewing of our mind. So what does a renewed mind do? Yep. I mean, what if your mind has been renewed, renew, just by, just the word, it's something new, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think could be different when your mind is renewed? Got a hand in the back.
When our mind is renewed, our thoughts change, our attention change, our action change. Those things changes because we're growing more in the fruits of the spirit.
Okay. Very good, very good, very good, very good. Yeah, so when your mind changes, it when you when you see someone or you see something, let's say, I don't know, someone, you see something and you have a negative view of something. So when your mind is renewed, quite possibly you wouldn't, when you see that same thing, you wouldn't have a negative view of it. You may have a positive view of it, right? You see it in a different light, perhaps. And I don't know what that could be. That could be, I don't know, could be, and you see me and you see me not unlocking the doors on time or something to come in here on Wednesday night. Now you can see that as a negative thing, and it probably is a negative thing to see. But there may, you know, there may have been a good reason. I may have had a flat tire on the way. I had to fix my flat tire so I didn't get here early. I just got here right at the same time. You know, you know. Do you give people that kind of grace? When you see someone, when you're somewhere and someone, you know, you've probably heard people say, you never know what somebody's going through. When somebody's having a bad day, and and they may say something kind of in the wrong way, maybe in the wrong tone. Hey, your tone's wrong. Your tone's wrong. What they say to you, do you give them that attitude back, or do you say, hey, maybe they have a sick child this morning. Maybe the bills are piling up. Maybe the spouse lost their job. And they're feeling a lot of pressure right now. Do you look at it that, hey, maybe I ought to show this person some grace? Or do you argue back with them? A renewed mind should, maybe, I would think, maybe help you see things through a different lens, so to speak. Now it may just be that they mean people. They may just be a mean-spirited person, just how they are. Could be. And even then, is there something that can be positive about that? Not maybe positive, but maybe say, I'm still going to show this person grace. This person needs some grace. You know, and you don't react to them the way that you would have done it before your mind was renewed. Um, you know, let's say something's going on in your life, some trauma. It's been weighing you down. So you probably, like I said, we're talking about that person, is kind of has an attitude, so to speak, maybe, coming across the wrong way. So you may, there's some trauma in your life, so maybe you're doing that. Maybe you're kind of snippy, you know, at people, you know, just a little bit disrespectful, whatever. But when your mind is renewed, does that help you maybe see things differently and not let the trauma that you've been through affect the way you know, instead of being snippy to somebody, you know, even though you've been through some things and something's weighing heavily on you, you still are nice to people. You still are cordial. You still are, you know, professional acting. Or you're not snippy. You don't answer people, you know, with a smart mouth or whatever. You know, could that be renewing of your mind? To do something different, what has to happen? You got to change, right? But what has to change first? What's the first part of your body that's got to change for you? Your mind got to change, right? So for your body, you know, to do something different, your mind's got to think differently in order to do it. Yeah, you know, that person looks at you wrong. You know, y'all have walked in somewhere and somebody looks at you and you just like that person looks evil, huh?
That's perception. That's your
Yeah,
perception.
that's your
That don't
perception.
mean that person could just look like that all
They
the
could.
time, but that don't, I mean, that's our
Exactly.
perception.
Exactly.
After,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So when you see that person, the old person in you, your old person would look at that person, oh yeah, that's the devil right there. But a renewed mind, like you're saying, a renewed mind look at them and say, hey, that's just the way they look, you know? You know, but we make people guilty and they have to prove themselves to be innocent many times, don't we? Instead of presuming that they're innocent and proving that they're guilty or something. I don't know. What y'all think?
I don't know about you guys, but if a person is evil, I can walk up to him and I can feel it. I don't have to just see it. I can feel it.
How you feel it?
You feel it? I don't know.
Their spirit and your spirit. So now I've
Different spirits, man.
I've kind of heard people say things such as that. You know, the spirits are different there.
Yeah. Like sometimes you can walk into a room and the stick, it feels heavy.
Mm.
And you know that you turn around and leave.
You know, so what if?
See what?
Yeah, could be your perception. But let's say it is. Let's say it is. So instead of turning around, why don't you change that?
I got to go.
Change what's in there. Why don't you come in with a big smile,
See,
speak to people and take that, you know, that bad feeling that you feel. Won't you turn that around? Won't you bring sunshine into that room of darkness?
them that's projecting that evil.
Hmm.
If they in it, you ain't gonna change nothing. You wasting your time.
Well, not necessarily, Joe. How you gonna save souls if you're wasting people? If you think it's a waste of time,
Turn the road.
try to save somebody's soul. All right. When you walk in here, all right. When you first walked in here, if we were to walk into this room right now, come into that the doors from the outside, how would it look in here? It'd be dark in here, wouldn't it? What would we do?
If there are other people here, I'm coming on in.
Yeah. If there wasn't no people in here and you the first person getting here, it's dark. What you gonna do? You gonna turn on the light, right? And what's that light do? It drives out that darkness, doesn't it? So maybe you walk into that room and there's some darkness there. It's not literally dark, it's spiritually dark. Maybe you can bring in that light.
My light might not.
Hey, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I've been singing that since you about 3 years old. Yes, sir.
It might not shine.
Now, I have encountered some people, several,
Got
that
a
I
hand
have
back
had
there.
conversation with that I just got this real bad vibe.
Yeah.
And they turned out to be some, they was decent folk.
No matter what you said to them.
I get it.
Yeah, so I'm not going to disagree with Joe. I have encountered that person.
But I bet you've encountered somebody that you didn't get that feeling from.
Is it?
that turned
Is it
that that turned out to be just as bad as that other person was too, right?
I'm not sure.
Nah, you probably
Most time we hold on to
because
the
because a lot of jokers fool you now. They come up to you with a smiling face. Who's in that song? Smiling faces. Yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about. That's a little bit before my time. I kind of heard that song a little bit, but that's before my time. But the smiling faces sometimes it get you right. So you just don't know exactly now.
You don't know. You don't know. But I want to say this as well. You saying as far as changing, and this person may be having a bad day or whatever going on. I think it depends on us and where we are. Because sometimes you trying to. What if that person don't need that pat on the back or that what if they need to hear something that we would not normally say when somebody's down. So I just think you need to, it depends. For me, I'm going to say.
Yeah. Well, I guess what we were discussing really is the renewing of the mind.
Right.
And so when your mind has been renewed, is that you just have a different way of thinking, is all I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying we weren't really, I mean, we kind of went there, to save someone's soul and whatnot. But really, just as I just was bringing up an example when you just initially encounter someone in your old mind, you look at that person like, oh, I ain't nothing with that person. I ain't saying I ain't gonna speak to that person. But in a renewed mind, you should smile and still speak to that person, and not have a negative, automatically have a negative view, because your mind has been renewed. So you should see the good in everyone, no matter what. That's kind of what I was just saying. Trying to say a renewed mind, and it's not just people, it's things, it's things that happen to you, places where you are. When it rains, oh man, y'all remember the joke I told over at the nursing home about the negative man? Y'all want me to tell it again? Y'all didn't hear it. Oh, I got to tell it again. Okay. Tell it. All right, we got a hand back in the back too. All right, go ahead. I'll tell the joke after this comment. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was just saying we had a comment chat from Shanae. She said mindset. I guess that was talking about change.
Yeah. It's your mindset. So, all right. So here's the joke. It's about mindset, right? All right. So, man had a friend that was real negative all the time. So when it rains, he'd be like, "Oh man, it's raining, man. The rain's gonna wash out the crops." And then it'll stop raining, and it don't rain for a couple of days, man. We ain't had no rain, man. It's gonna dry out all the crops. Just always negative about something. He finds something negative in everything. And so they went hunting one day, went quail hunting, and so they had a dog with them. All right. So they shot the quail, dog, and the quail ran. I mean, the quail fell right in the middle of a pond. Dog ran out there in the middle of the pond, got that quail, ran back on top of the water, came back, brought the quail back, dropped it. Man, they said that. So shot another one. Dog ran out there again into the middle of the pond, on top of the water. Got that quail, brought it back. Man, they said a word. So they shot another one on the other side of the pond. That dog ran all the way across the pond. Got the quail, ran all the way back across the pond, on top of the water now. All the way back, dropped that quail. So the old negative man looked at his friend and said, "That old sorry dog can't even swim, huh?" So he had to find something negative in everything. A renewed mind. It's kind of like we're talking about how the people were when Jesus was performing his miracles, his signs, how they were concentrating on the fact that who told you to pick that up? Who told you to get up and take your bed? They just ignored the fact that he healed the blind man, right? And it's like a renewed mind doesn't see the negativity there, doesn't have the negativity, doesn't see the negative things. It sees the positive things. That's what a renewed mind can do. Or at least I would think so. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was gonna throw that out there that one of the things that has to happen is how do you get renewed mind? And you think about it like when we were doing the study of Psalms, when David said, "Create in me a clean heart, O God." and renew a steadfast spirit within them. So it's like if you had everybody in the room and we was all just doing well, good health. If you say, well, how did you get sick? You had to be exposed to something to get sick. Well, on the inverse side of it, you got to be exposed to God. You got to be exposed to Christ and have him come into you to renew your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And if you stay in connection with your source, well, you're gonna continually be renewed. It's almost like the song says, the tree that's the root deep is in the water. That's the same thing with our mind. And that renewing of our mind is gonna cause the change. Because we can't do it by ourselves.
Exactly. And that's part of the renewing, and not only the negativity, to positivity, let's talk about fear, what's the saying, if you're gonna worry, don't pray. If you pray, don't worry, right? But you got people that are worried, what tomorrow's gonna bring, right? But they say they trust God. Do they really trust God if they're worried about tomorrow? You know? I mean, so the renewing of your mind can help you not be so fearful, right? You know, the renewing of your mind can take your thoughts away from those worldly thoughts. Thinking about those, what we talk about, the cars and the money and the eating too much, like Ariel said, eating too much, whatever, or whatever, you know, it changes your thoughts, and you're not concentrating on those quote unquote worldly things. That's a renewing of the mind, where you, you know, the type of success, which is what we're talking about, really, because this whole month, right, I've been talking about success. What's biblical success? Getting away from what the world thinks success is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what true success is actually renewing your mind. And when you renew your mind, as we talked about, when your mind controls your body, so now your body starts doing things differently. Y'all ever seen anybody that's, I don't know, been, at a place to, let's say they're helping the homeless, but they kind of got their nose up, and kind of, you know, like they don't like the smell in there or something. Or, you know, I mean, it's kind of like, all right, you're here at a good place now. You should be here helping, and we're glad you're helping, but you kind of got the attitude not quite right. The kind of looking down on these folks a little bit. Just like your heart's not right, right? Now they're in the right place, trying to do the right thing, but they're still not quite in the right place doing the right thing, if you know what I mean. A renewing of the mind changes that, can it? Perhaps. Perhaps. I mean, I don't know. I mean, everybody in here has been around kids. Either you've had children or nieces, nephews, or friends, children, right? Been around you. And every one of them been snotty nosed. Every last one of them been needed to have a changing before. And you gladly do it, right? Right? Well, Joe, you don't like changing diapers, Joe. I saw that face. you know, but then we'll see someone, you know, who needs a Kleenex, and we'll shy away from them. We don't want to touch them. And I get it. There's a lot of disease and stuff out there. I get that. That's you know, but you know, our minds need to be renewed. Our minds need to be renewed. Um, and get away from some of the things some of the thoughts that we have. And when we change those thoughts, our actions will change, and we'll get better and we'll improve. I think so. Um, and when you do that, we talked about the way you think about some of these, some of the possessions. Think about the cars and the money. You know, I think your desires will change.
Yeah.
What don't get me wrong. You probably still want to make a lot of money, but what you want to do with that money probably changes. I don't know. You're not trying to keep up with the Joneses now. You want money now for maybe for another reason, for more security or something, or for your retirement or something. I don't know, but or more to give to the church or to give to the needy. Your purpose for pushing yourself can be renewed because your mind's been renewed. So those things are kind of reshaped, so to speak. You're not trying to wear the fancy clothes all the time. Not that you won't ever have fancy clothes on, but you won't. That won't be your sole purpose for doing these things. and and once your mind is renewed, I think you'll gain a better understanding when you read the word and you read the truth. Things will start standing out to you, and making more sense to you. You probably get a deeper meaning of things. You know, I mean, think back to 5 years ago. You're reading the word compared to when you read it today. You understand more probably today than you did 5 years ago because your mind has been growing. And you go back further, 10 years ago, and 15 and 20 years ago, you definitely probably have a better understanding. And things that you read now, certain things stand out more. Just jump off the page at you now that didn't jump off the page before, perhaps because your mind is seeking these things in a different way. Your mind understands in a different way. Does that kind of make sense? So renewing of the mind is more than just say, well, I'm gonna stop doing this, I'm gonna do this. It's a total, transformation, a total transformation that you're making. Yes, sir.
Man, what's we got John, the baptizer, right?
Hmm.
You see Paul and all the uh, different fellows and ladies too in the Bible that did some really good stuff. What's different from them and us? What's different?
The names in this book.
I threw him out because like John, I like John better. He was I felt like he knew what he was supposed to be doing. He didn't deviate from what he was supposed to be doing. Just like Paul when he got that word. Hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing. That's what he did. So I think most of the times we don't really know our purpose. I'm going to say completely. So that's probably why we haven't completely made that transformation, if I can say.
Yeah.
'Cause I know James Hall would say that you can't be over the fence, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but still, it's a growing thing too, right?
Yeah. It is. It is. It is a growth thing. And we talked about, some months ago we studied the disciples, the 12, and was it 12 ordinary men, right? And there's examples all over the Bible, where Jesus didn't go to the, you know, the the high priests. He didn't go to the, those that ran the cities and ran the countries or whatever, or the regions. He many times, most of the time, used someone, that was, not considered, somebody that was in charge or a great person or whatever, and I think he did that on purpose in order to let us see that, hey, in your own way you can do, and it may be something small, I mean, just, you know if someone needs some money, and there's how many of us in here, Kobe included, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so about 10 of us, 9 or 10 of us. Now I may not could give you $100, but all 10 of us can give $10, and somebody have $10, right? So all of us can give $100, and they have $1,000. It's a lot of money. It means a lot of money. I I look at God's, work, what God wants us to do similarly. Okay, yeah, there's some big things that need to be done, right? We're tasked with growing the kingdom, and saving souls, and that feels big. But I think we can work together to do things. You do a little, you do a little, you do a little, you do a little, I do a little. We all do a little bit together. It can add it to be a big thing. Um, and yeah, some of us may feel overwhelmed, uh, in you know, what we're tasked to do. But I think if we band together the way we should be banding together, we can do a lot. Right now our church is going through a little bit of a transformation. We're trying to grow, right? We're trying to do a little more, do things a little better, do things a little differently than we've been doing the last 30 years, whatever. And we're a small church, but hey, if we just everyone, adjusts, renews their mind a little bit, and we all do a little bit here and there, a little bit change here and there, we all pick it up a little bit, do a little better, a little bit more, you know. I think as a church, as a congregation, we can do a lot more, you know, and everybody just do a little bit.
Man, you think the 12 felt special because Jesus
Yeah,
chose them?
yeah, I think they do. I think they did. And you wanna know why I thought that? We talked about it the other day. We talked about his question was, do you think the 12 felt special? I think they did to a certain extent. Um, because we read where they had a discussion about who's the greatest. We talked about that. We also talked about, if you read John, what John called himself. Yeah, he would call himself the one Jesus loved. He said that many times. And then, we talked about the other day, we brought it up the other day, when Mary, was it Mary that went to the tomb and and she saw, Jesus had appeared to her, and she went and told, and then John put in there that he got there first. They both took off running. He got there first. So I think there was a little bit, they're human. I think there's a little bit of competition there. Just a little bit of competition there. Not saying it was, to the point that they were, backstabbing each other. But I think there's a little bit of competition there, a little bit. And I just think that they realized that they were special. They were his chosen 12.
So why do you think we don't feel like we're special? You
Oh,
told us.
no, you told me to go through all that to ask me that.
Oh,
I, I don't know. I don't know, Ariel. We should, shouldn't we? We should. We should.